Gender discrimination is encoded into law in countries across the globe. There are just a few examples. 113 countries do not have laws to ensure equal pay and equal work rights for men and women. 104 countries make certain jobs off limit for women. 39 countries have laws that mean a daughter cannot inherit the same proportion of assets as a son. 36 countries limit what wives can inherit from their husbands. 29 countries restricts the hours of women work. 18 countries allow men to prohibit their wives from working. 17 countries limit when and how women can travel outside their homes. Women earn 78 cents for every dollar a man makes. Only 17% of the seats in Congress are held by women. Although 48% of law school graduates and 45% of law firm associates are females, women make up only 22% of federal level and 28.6% of state level judgeships. Violence against women and girls. From domestic violence to traditional harmful social practices and sexual exploitation, violence against women and girls happens all over the world. 1 in 3 women around the world experience violence. World Health Organization. 58% of all women murdered in 2017 were killed by an intimate partner or a family member. UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Around 650 million women across the globe were married before the age of 18. UNICEF. Over 200 million women and girls in 30 countries have undergone female genital mutilation. UNICEF. 70% of all human trafficking involves women and girls mainly for sexual exploitation. Women and girls suffer from most during the violent conflict due to inequality and discrimination. They are more at risk of sexual violence, exploitation, and trafficking during war. 1 in 5 female refugees are internally displaced people, have experienced sexual violence in countries affected by conflict. Women's economic rights. Women do not have the same economic rights as men. Unpaid care work, lack of fair pay and job security, poor working condition, and limited opportunity to own land and inherit property are all the undermining women rights. Women can't even earn a living and take control of their lives. Women spend at least twice as much as time as men on domestic work. And when all work, paid and unpaid, is considered, women work longer hours than men. The World Woman 2015 book report. Over 2.5 billion women do not have the same work opportunities as men, with laws restricting the types of jobs they can do. World Bank. Less than 15% of landowners worldwide are women, despite most women in the global south working in agricultural sources. World Bank. In 2018, the estimated global gender pay gap was 22%, with women earned around 78% of what men are paid. International Labour Organization. Women participation and leadership, UN Women. As of September 1, 2021, there are 26 women serving as heads of state and government in 24 countries. At the current rate, gender equality at higher position of power will not be reached for another 130 years. Just 10 countries have a woman head of state and 13 countries have a woman head of government. Only 21% of the government ministers are women. Only 14 countries having achieved 50% or more women in cabinet, with an annual increase in just 0.5 percent points. Gender parity in ministerial position will not be achieved before 2077. Five most commonly held portfolio by women ministers are family, children, youth, elderly, disabled, followed by social affairs, environment, resources, energy, employment, vaccination, training, women affairs, gender equality, etc. These all are soft ministries. Only 4 countries have 50% or above women parliament in a single or lower houses. Rwanda with 61%, Cuba with 53%, Bolivia with 53%, and UAE with 50%. A further 19 countries have reached or suppressed 40% including 9 countries of Europe, 5 Latin American countries and Caribbean, 4 in Africa, and 1 in Pacific. More than two-thirds of these countries have applied gender quotas, either legislated candidates quota or reserved seat, open space for women political participation in national parliament. Globally, there are 27 states in which women account for less than 10% of parliament in single or lower house, including 4 single lower chambers or with no woman at all. At the current rate of progress, gender parity in the National Legislative Assembly will not be achieved before 2063. Many analysts have noted that women leaders around the world have demonstrated successful management of the COVID pandemic based on inclusive, evidence based leadership, yet women lead only 7% of countries. A survey of 30 countries with COVID-19 task forces and committees showed that on average only 24% of the members were women. In conflict affected countries, women representation in COVID-19 task force is even lower at 18%. Worldwide, women's representation in national parliaments has increased from 13% to 2000 to 24% in 2020. In conflict affected countries, women representation in parliament remains lower at 18.9% in 2020. In 2020, women representation in national parliament in conflict and post-conflict countries with legislative quotas is more than twice that of those with. The share of women in local government with quotas is 26%, more than 3 times higher than those of without. In Afghanistan, 25% of the provincial council seats were reserved for women. However, no one has claimed them. Women meaningful participation in peace progress. Globally, 43% of women and 53% of men believe men make better political leaders than women, according to the UN report. Between 1992 and 2019, women constituted on average 13% of negotiations, 6% of mediations, and 6% of signatories in major peace progress worldwide. About 7 out of every 10 peace progresses did not include women mediators or women signatories. Worldwide, the proportion of peace agreements with gender equality provisions increased from 14 to 22% between 1995 to 2019. Between 2015 to 19, only 11% of ceasefire agreements included gender provisions compared to 26% of other peace agreement types. In Mali, after the signing of Algeria peace agreements in 2015, women made up of 3% of National Commission on Disarmament, Peace Stabilization, and 6% of National Council for Security Reform. Promoting and protecting the human rights of women and girls. In 26 conflict-afflicted countries, United Nations has verified 102 killings of women, human rights defenders, journalists, and trade unionists. In 2019, the United Nations documented 2,838 cases of conflict-related sexual violence, of which 96% targets were women and girls. Financing the women peace and security agenda. Over the last decade, bilateral aid directly to women organizations in fragile and conflict-afflicted countries has stagnated at 0.2% of the total bilateral aid. National and regional strategies for advancing women peace. UN progress on gender parity and mainstreaming of peace and security. 10 peacekeeping missions has gender units and 7 of them were located in the office at the head of the mission. Security Council's work on women, peace and security. Since 2000, the Security Council has adopted a total of 10 dedicated resolutions of women, peace and security. The Security Council resolution, which explicit references to women, peace and security issues, reached 70% on average between 2017 and 2019. 19. The Council's attention to agenda, however, remains uneven. In 2019, 67% of the resolutions adopted by the Council included women, peace, and security, slightly down from 72% in 2018. The proportion of presidential statements dropped sharply to 40% compared to 85% in 2018.